Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Red True Crime. I'm Rebecca, your host, and we are going to be, well, let me tell you what we're going to be talking about. So, in the quiet, rural corners of North Carolina's Piedmont region, a late night plan between eight teenagers turned into one of the most heartbreaking double murders the area has ever seen. Two young lives snuffed out in an instant. One suspect, a claim of self defense, and a trial that ended in partial justice. But this left one family still waiting. This is the story of Lyric Woods and Devin Clark, and the man accused of taking them both, Isaiah Ross. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for sticking with me in this cold, blustery January day. So, this particular case, I didn't really follow too much. A lot of other cases were going around. I do remember when it happened, and I do remember seeing bits and pieces of as the case progressed and when the trial started. So I did watch a recap of everything that happened with the court case after the verdict came out. So I'm going to give you my opinion on this as we go over a few things. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And I here cover the cases that matter with respect for the victims. So let's dive in. So we're going to first meet the victims. And their stories need to be told. So we're going to start there. So 14-year-old not sure why my computer is deciding not to work today. There we go. So 14-year-old Lyric Woods was a freshman at Cedar Ridge High School in Efland, North Carolina. Now I'm probably saying that incorrectly because I'm not a native to North Carolina. And they have some cities that are just really hard to pronounce. She was described by family and friends as outgoing and kind-hearted. Devin Clark, let's see, that's this guy right here, was an 18-year-old senior at Eastern Alamance High School in Mebane, North Carolina, and he was known for his kindness and close family ties. The two were not publicly known to be close friends prior to the incident, though evidence later suggested they had planned to meet up. So, now on the evening of September 16th, Devin Clark texted Isaiah Ross, an acquaintance, that's this guy right here, from Mebane, asking for a ride in Ross's mother's white GMC SUV to pick up Lyric Woods. Now, the stated purpose was for Clark and Woods to hang out in a remote area, with testimony later indicating it was for them to have sex. The trio drove to a rural utility easement off Buckhorn Road near Mebane, an area accessible by ATV trails. Now, I've been up in Mebane. It is pretty rural, so I've been out there before. Now, supposedly around 2, 3 in the morning on September 17th, an altercation occurred inside or outside the vehicle. According to Ross's testimony, this guy right here, and defense claims, Clark had brought his father's .40 caliber handgun, and Ross alleged that Clark shot Woods during a dispute, then turned the gun on him, prompting Ross to wrestle the weapon away and shoot Clark in self-defense. Prosecutors, however, argued that Ross orchestrated the killings, shooting both victims execution style in the back, Woods multiple times. Clark in the back and head. A total of 12 shell casings from the same firearm were found at the scene. Now, they did say during the trial that um, Devin Clark was shot 6 times and that Lyric Woods was shot 7 times. So that makes 13. So I don't know. Um, the bodies were dragged into a tall bush into tall brush, I'm sorry, and positioned on their backs with arms outstretched. Neighbors reported hearing gunshots around that time. Now, on September 18th, 2022, 2 men riding four-wheelers discovered the bodies along the ATV trail. Woods had been reported missing by her family that morning after she wasn't found in her bedroom. And Clark's mother had entered him into the National Crime Information Center database after not hearing from him since Friday night. Now, the Orange County Sheriff's Department led the investigation, confirming the victims' identities and linking the scene to the missing persons reports. Evidence included the shell casings, blood in Ross's mother's SUV, and witness accounts. A key tip came from a friend of Ross to whom he allegedly confessed details of the shooting afterwards. Now, this was a guy named Christopher. I don't remember his last name. He was he basically said that Ross had confessed to him and that he and Ross had also had an intimate relationship. I don't know. So after the incident, Ross fled to Delaware. Investigators partnered with the FBI and Delaware State Police, leading to his arrest on October 5th, 2022. He was initially processed as a juvenile because he was 17 at the time when this happened, which limited public disclosure under the North Carolina law at that time. Now, when he was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, District Attorney Jeff Neiman sought to try him as an adult in Superior Court, a process completed by November 2022, allowing his public identification. Now, the case highlighted gaps in juvenile laws, leading to the passage of the Lyric and Devin law, and this came through in August of 2023, effective in December of 2023, which permits authorities to release identifying information about juveniles accused of serious crimes under specific conditions. Now, in March of 2025, Ross pleaded not guilty. His defense attorney, Jonathan Trapp, signaled a self-defense strategy. Now, prosecutors offered a plea deal in early January of 2026. Guilty pleas to 2 counts of second-degree murder in exchange for 20 to 25 years per count. So it would have been a total of like 40 to 50 years. Ross, rejected it twice, opting for trial where a first-degree conviction could mean life without parole, and they weren't going for the death penalty in his case. So the trial started on January 14th, just a few weeks ago, in Orange County Superior Court. This was presided over by Jeff Stephanie Reese, and the jury selection occurred on January 14th through the 15th, with opening arguments following. Prosecutors, led by Assistant DA Anna Orr, presented evidence including forensic details, witness testimonies, and arguments that Ross planned the murders. Now, the defense emphasized self-defense, reasonable doubt, and inconsistencies in the prosecution's timeline. All right, let's put her back on here. So, family members of the victims testified about their last interactions. Investigators detailed the crime scene, ballistics, all casings from one gun, and Ross's alleged confession. Clark's father identified the gun as his. Now, Ross took the stand around January 20th, 21st, claiming Clark initiated the violence by shooting Woods and threatening him. The defense highlighted no prior motive and argued the evidence supported self-defense. Now, closing arguments wrapped up around January 23rd, and the prosecution urged conviction on first-degree murder while the defense pushed for the acquittal based on self-defense. Now, jury deliberations began late January 23rd, delayed by a winter storm, which we are still dealing with, and they resumed back on the 28th, with jurors split initially 8-4 on Woods' charge, and on January 29th, they reached a unanimous verdict on Clark, but remained deadlocked on Woods. So here's what they came up with a few days ago. The jury convicted Ross of second-degree murder in Devin Clark's death, but deadlocked 8-4 on first-degree murder for Lyric Woods, leading Judge Reese to declare a mistrial for Woods' case. Ross was sentenced to 241 to 300 months, 20 to 25 years for Clark's murder, with credit for time served over 3 years. Now, the judge ordered a psychological evaluation, mental health assistance, and educational vocational training. Jail fees were waived at the defense's request. Now, that's just a real brief snapshot of what happened. I will say I have many questions about a lot of things with this case because if you go back and you listen to any of the trial itself, where the detectives were reading text messages from Snapchat and whatnot from Devin's phone, from Isaiah's phone, and from Lyric's phone. Actually, I don't think they even read anything from Lyric's phone. I think it was all from Devin Clark's phone and Isaiah Ross's phone. And not to speak ill of the dead, but Devin Clark did not appear to be up to any good. He was talking about how they were going to hook up for sex, he and Lyric, and that he guaranteed Isaiah would be able to have a piece of her too. Like, what is it? She's 14, you know? And I know a lot of people have been very critical about the fact that a 14-year-old girl snuck out of her room to go meet up with an 18-year-old boy to have sex. This is the youth of America. This is what they do. Do they deserve to die for it? No. But Devin Clark brought that gun with him to that event. And that's the question I have. Why did he bring that gun? What is up with that? That's what I want to know. He had the gun, not Isaiah. I mean, Isaiah ended up with the gun and using it on both Devin and Lyric, but I don't understand why Devin brought the gun with him in the first place. So, the reactions that have happened with this case have been most of them have been like it's what you expect. And then there was a very weird one. But before I get to the weird one, a relative of Clark delivered a victim impact statement saying, "You changed the course of our lives forever." Families expressed mixed emotions, relief for partial justice, but frustration over the mistrial. The courtroom was instructed to remain neutral during the reading. Now, they are going to do a retrial on Lyric Woods' death with him, and they have set that for March of this year. The case underscored issues with gun access among teens and juvenile transparency laws. It remains a point of community grief in the Piedmont region, including nearby areas like Greensboro. And right now, Ross is serving his sentence for Clark's murder while awaiting developments on the Woods retrial. And, I'll keep talking about it as stuff pops up. But here's the reaction that bothered me the most. This person right here, this is the mother of Isaiah Ross. And she went on social media, and her response and what she says and her reactions are unbelievably crazy and cruel. Now, North Carolina Beat put this out there, so you're going to see a bunch of their insignias all over this video. So, thank you, Gerald. I'm giving you credit for it, but I'm going to put this up here, okay?
Mad? You mad that we won? We really won. Y'all think y'all won. You think you won. It's okay. You really did win. God bless you. God bless you. But we won for real. You mad that we won for real? That it didn't take your white skin and your motherfucking the money that you had and the power and the title that you had to win? You mad that black people actually got the verdict that they wanted? You mad? You mad? White motherfuckers. Fuck you. Fuck you. You mad? Because the black people actually got to stand up on the stand and be able to read their notes. You didn't. You didn't. You thought you was going to win because of your skin color, because of this, because of this, because of title. But you know what? The black people actually won.
I'm confused by that. Let me say this. I am very confused by the black people actually won, because at the end of the day, your son is going to prison for like 20 years for murder. How did you fucking win? Your child took the life of, he's being convicted of at least taking the life of one person. and will most likely, when they go to retry, will probably be convicted of the second one. I mean, she's making the statements about Lyric Wood's parents because um her mother's on the board of firefighters and her stepfather is like the assistant chief of the fire station or whatever. So they, you know, they are involved in the community. Um I don't understand what that has to do with anything. Now, from what I understand, because of the way things were sounding, and they asked the question in the trial, like, why wasn't a gunshot residue test done to test whether or not Isaiah shot the gun to kill Lyric or whatever. And the coroner person said, we don't do that because when they're in such close proximity, like in a car and a gun is going off, that gunshot residue is everywhere. So it doesn't really give any type of evidence of who shot who. So I get that. But my thing is 6 and 7 times, one body 6 times, one body 7 times. I don't believe that was self-defense. I don't. Because, and what's more is that he ditched the gun. He dragged the bodies out of the car and, set the whole thing up and tried to change things around and headed to Delaware, That doesn't speak to a person who's not guilty. But however, it does speak to a person who's a teenager and freaked out. So, I don't know. I do believe, and especially seeing how his mother's acting, everyone's a product of their parents. They really are, and I hate to blame his behavior on his mother, but what is going on with that? I'm sorry, that whole thing of "You won, we won, you mad, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "What is that?" You know? Your kid's going to prison for at least 20 years. And there's more to this.
You tried to keep Devin's mom from defining her son's body. They had to do all this extra shit just based off the motherfucking clothing that they had on. They was the ones to stand up and read their notes.
I don't understand the point of the whole note thing. What's the big deal about that?
They was the ones to stand up and read their notes. Not y'all white motherfuckers. Fucking trying to play. Cause y'all got this. Y'all got this and power. No, I'm glad the black people won. Boop, boop, boop. I'm glad the black people won. Laugh at that. They won. They won. They won. We won. Taking life for him. Justice for.
Yeah. I got annoyed. I couldn't watch the rest of it. But let me say this. At one point, she talks about how my son will be 32 when he gets out. Okay. Whatever. I can't say this. This woman is insane. This woman is trash. This woman should never have raised kids. And let me say one thing further. Devin Clark's parents and Lyric Wood's parents wish their children were going to jail. Because you know why? That means they're fucking alive. Yeah. I think if they had to choose between their kids being buried in the ground or going to a jail, I think they would choose the jail. Like they had to choose one or the other, dead or jail. Which one are you going to pick? I think they would have chosen jail because then their children are alive. And your child did that. Well, let me clarify. Your child did that to one of them. He's been convicted of one of them. He's being allegedly accused of doing it to the other, but he's been convicted of one. I don't understand that woman at all. I'm sorry. That whole display just ticked the hell out of me because I'm sorry, your child still was going to jail for murder. For murder. And you can't show some type of remorse, some type of character, some fucking class. Say nothing. Say, "I'm sorry, that you lost your children," and call it a day. We won, we won. Are you serious? People like her piss me off. So, but yeah, Isaiah Ross is being retried for Lyric Woods. And like I said, they have a court date sometime in March to get the ball rolling on that. So it'll probably be sometime next year before that is finished. And I hope for Lyric Woods' parents, they get closure and not another mistrial. As I'm not quite clear how they convict him of Devin Clark, but not of her. And like I said, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall in that jury room to listen to what they all were being told. But yeah, that is the end of that. So that, like I said, the retrial starts back up in March, or at least the steps to get to the retrial starts back up in March. And I will be back to report on that as that goes along because that woman has got me heated and has got me invested in this case. So, yeah. But this is Rebecca with Red True Crime. Pray for Lyric Woods' family. This is not easy for them, to go through all of this, to hear all the things that were said in that courtroom about their daughter, and then for it to be a mistrial, they had to go back through all this again. So pray for them and pray for Devin Clark's family too, because he's gone, and she is gone, and no matter what happens, nobody's coming back. So, as I always say, be weird, be rude, be safe. And thank you for tuning in. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Subscribe, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. And you all stay safe, stay warm, and be weird, be rude, be safe. Bye bye.